Hello, my name is Jill Coyle, and welcome to another episode of No One Dies from Divorce, where we talk the nitty-gritty aspects of divorce and help each other come through this not only surviving, but thriving. I'm a divorce attorney, and I'm interviewing other experts and people just like you who are going through or have been through a divorce, so you can have the latest and greatest information on all things before, during, and after divorce. Let's dive in. Welcome to another episode of No One Dies from Divorce. We're so excited today to talk with our special guest, Michelle Thomas. She's an attorney out in Washington, D.C., and we are going to be talking about the fallacies of divorce. Divorce attorney to a divorce attorney in two completely different districts. So I'm really excited for our conversation today. Thank you so much for being on the show, Michelle.
Jill, thank you so much for having me. I definitely am looking forward to this conversation.
Yes, just a little bit. Michelle, I actually saw her on Clubhouse and was able to kind of listen to her and her beliefs and what she's doing to elevate the practice of divorce in her states. And I was really just drawn to her and what she's doing and her mission. I think a lot of our ambition is in line as well. And so I was really excited when we were able to connect and get each other on this show, because I think she has so many things to say that are really elevating this level of profession and what she does to help people through what I would say is some of the hardest times in their life. So I want to just introduce you, Michelle, if you don't mind. I'll just tell people a little bit about you. She is a veteran trial lawyer and the founder of MC Thomas and Associates, PC. This is a premier divorce and family law firm serving Washington, D.C., Northern Virginia, and Suburban Maryland. Michelle has been repeatedly recognized as a top-rated family lawyer in Washington, D.C. by SuperLawyers and recently named a top attorney in divorce by Bethesda Magazine. She has spent her career handling complex divorce litigation, high net worth divorce, and contested custody cases. She's also been seen on all local and national media. She provides insight on a wide range of divorce and family law topics. She's also been a featured speaker on divorce and family law for the American Bar Association, National Bar Association, the DC Bar, local bar associations, and the Montgomery County Commission for Women, as well as a guest lecturer at the George Washington University Law School, Howard University, and Morgan State University. And Michelle, you graduated from the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill and George Washington University Law School. Again, thank you so much for being here. I'm excited for our conversation.
Thank you for having me and for that lovely introduction. I appreciate it.
No problem. I would love for our listeners just to hear a little bit about your journey and philosophy when it comes to divorce and family law.
Yeah, so as you mentioned, I've been a divorce and family lawyer now for about 18 years. And I always had an interest in divorce and family law from when I was very young. And I don't know what that says about me, but I just wanted to really help people navigate some of their most difficult times in life. So I went to the University of North Carolina undergrad. I worked for a family lawyer there while I was in college. I am originally from New York, so I went there as an out-of-state student. I went to then the George Washington University Law School. I continued, I interned in the family court, did other family court clerkships, and I just knew that I was really called to help people going through these interpersonal relationships. You know, if things aren't right at home, things aren't generally right all around, right? So if you can fix people's home environments and if you can help them achieve the peace that they need at home, I think then you can really help breed and produce greatness. So I practiced after law school for a few years at firms, and then I started my own law firm now 14 years ago, MC Thomas and Associates, and there's been no looking back ever since. So that's where I am today, 14 years in with my firm, and And it's been great. We've been able to help a lot of people over these 14 years. So
I love that. It's interesting because my story is similar in the fact that I knew I wanted to be an attorney, but I had no idea I wanted to be a family law attorney. I didn't do anything in law school about it. I did not want, I didn't do the clinic. I thought I wanted to be a criminal attorney. But one thing I recognized in my skill set is that I was very, very good at helping people through really tough times. And I think,
yeah.
I mean, what's your thought process with this? But doesn't it take a certain kind of personality to be a very good family law attorney?
Joe, I hear that all the time. Like, it definitely takes a certain personality, someone who's compassionate, right? Who has compassion and empathy, but at the same time can set firm boundaries and stay focused on the goal. You know, you and your lawyer can't be crying in the courthouse, right? So one of you needs to be laser focused on the strategy and the law and helping you achieve desired results. But yeah, it definitely takes a certain type of person. So I don't know what that says about us, Joe, because here we are doing it. But yeah.
Well, I always say we have to have some kind of thick skin because somebody's always mad at us. If it's not our client, it's, you know, opposing party. And some of my, you know, 1-star reviews come from opposing parties. And, you know, somebody's always kind of in this contentious mode. And so, you know, I tell my clients all the time when they want to yell at me, I kind of stop them and I say, listen, I get yelled at all day, every day by other people. I don't need my clients yelling at me. We're supposed to be allies. So it definitely takes just kind of a little bit of grit and fortitude to be able to do what we do day in, day out for as long as we've been doing it. And I love, you know, I've researched you a little bit of what you're doing there on the East Coast. Like you have a different mindset and philosophy when it comes to family law and what you're trying to achieve in your firm and what you're trying to do for people. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So a lot of times, you know, I believe that lawyers are here and our intention and purpose is to help, right? Like not to make things worse. But too many times you see parties that may hire an attorney who is sort of fixated on ratcheting up legal fees, increasing the angst and the tension between the parties, the conflict between the parties, which in turn usually increases attorney's fees. And it's just sort of, you know, just paper. It's just a job. And one of the reasons I wanted to start my own firm was to do it my way, to do it, you know, to practice family law with integrity and consistency and excellence, which are the firm's core values. And I see my role, I see our roles, Jill, as divorce and family lawyers, as being there to help a family solve a problem. We are problem solvers. And if you approach a case or a conflict that's occurring with, you know, how do we best resolve this, preferably, you know, in your client's, you know, favorably to your client, and hopefully not doing harm to the children or to the other side, you know, while you're in the process. But if we look at this trying to solve a problem, I think that changes the entire narrative and dynamic of the case. I have just seen too many people spend way too much money on conflicts that didn't have to be. Now, that being said, sometimes you have to try a case, right? And I believe that the way to get the best settlement is to show that you are ready for trial. But ultimately, we're there to solve the problem. And that's really been my philosophy, is how do we do this in the most decent, honorable way that gets the desired end result.
I love that. I always say my mantra is aggressive litigation gets to fair and quick settlement. And that's exactly how since we are a high conflict litigation firm, that's exactly what we do. We prepare for trial, we prepare for court, which then moves to settlement in these very, very high contentious cases. And so I also know that in these cases, these people are real people, right? And they want to be seen as that. But, you know, as attorneys, we have to get to the point where we kind of help people recognize that, listen, you need to take your emotions out of this. So go deal with that however way we need to help you deal with that with therapy or, you know, helping you find your tribe. And I'm going to take care of this legal stuff. And, you know, it's a consistent conversation we had to have with our clients, right? About how like, we're here for a purpose, and that's to advocate for you. And we understand you're going through this really, really traumatic time, but we are not your therapists. In fact, we're very, very expensive therapists. So, we're gonna help you understand that finding your therapist or finding what you need to deal with the emotional stuff is really, really important.
Yeah, you can't look at or approach a case in a vacuum. You have to look at the total person, right? There's a person there, and there will be life after divorce for this person. Now, whether that life is a good one or a rocky one depends on how you and how they navigate this process. So I absolutely believe and encourage clients to help them put a team together that may include financial support to help them figure out how to best rebuild wealth or maintain their wealth after divorce. That includes therapeutic, emotional support, a very close circle of friends, not a whole lot, because you don't need everybody in your business telling you what to do, but you do need one or two confidants, spiritual advisors, a therapist, because it's a life-changing transition. But if it's done well, you can transition to life being better after divorce. I like to look at it as I try to help clients think of it as, divorce is not necessarily the end, but it can be the start of a brand new beginning. I think one of the reasons that I've managed my firm, I've started a coaching company called Divorcing Better. And it's because I believe there is a better way. There is a better way to divorce. There is a way that you can divorce and still your family remain intact, and life can be better after it's all said and done.
I absolutely agree with that. And I think that that's why women like us are changing the narrative of the profession, because I got so sick of people using the divorce as like a shame word, like, oh man, I'm getting divorced.
Yeah.
And somehow I then am this black mark on my head that shows that I'm somehow less of a person. And I am like, okay, if 50% of all marriages in America are going to end in divorce, then why are we not using this as a movement to become a better version? Like, if we use this, just like you said, as a clean slate to become a better version of ourselves, to become a better friend, to become a better confidant, to become a better coworker, to become a better human, then man, we just shifted something that's considered shameful into a movement of a lot of people working to better themselves, and humanity is only going to be the fallout and the benefit of it. So
Yeah.
I love that. And I wanted to talk with you because it's so interesting. I love talking to attorneys that practice in other areas, because as you know, family law is different in every state. I mean, sometimes it's so specific to even the county that you live in. So when I'm doing this, podcast, I have to be very specific. Listen, I'm licensed in Utah, I'm licensed in Texas. I can give you general advice, about everything else. And I love being able to connect with other attorneys, because again, what we're doing is so important, but it could be very, very, in a wide range of variety of the actual things we have to deal with. But one of the things I wanted to ask, like, you are very prolific where you live, you're very well known, you are one of the best family law attorneys out in the districts that you're practicing. So what would be some tips for people that are looking and saying, okay, I need to find an attorney. How do I find the right one?
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you for saying that, Jill. I appreciate it. That's one of the most important decisions that someone can make at the start of this process, which is hiring the right lawyer and the lawyer that's right for their case. All lawyers they don't practice the same and have different philosophies and approaches. And it can make or break your entire case, the lawyer that you decide to work with. So I do like to help clients with, or people with just tips on how to find the right lawyer. Number one, I recommend simply, first of all, asking around, asking for referrals, trying to get names of people that your friends, colleagues have used. That's the first source. When you go on consultations, I would recommend consulting with at least 2 or 3 lawyers to make sure you find the right fit. There's a series of questions you can ask. Number one, what percentage of your practice is devoted to divorce and family law? If you have a very complex case, in a divorce case, you do not want someone that just dabbles in divorce. You want someone who lives it and breathes it day in and day out, who knows all the nuances, who knows the judges, who knows, who's well known and well respected in the community. So that is number one. And I'm not knocking, general practitioners or whatever, but you need to know what your case may entail and what you need for your case. That's number one. What percentage of your practice is devoted to family law? Another question to ask is, are you a trial lawyer or a settlement lawyer? There are some lawyers who do not go to court. They may do mediation, they may do collaborative divorce, which is another process to resolve your case outside of a courtroom and court. But if you have a very contentious case or think that it could end up in court, you do not want your lawyer learning on your case. Like that is just not, you will end up frustrated. And it just doesn't go well. But again, it depends on what you need for your case. Another question people need to ask is do you have time to take my case? Okay. That is the crux of a lot of conflict in between attorneys and clients, attorney-client relationships, where the client may need a lot more communication, telephone calls, emails, things like that. And if the lawyer is in court every day and isn't able to respond to you, that's also going to breed frustration. And look, divorce is hard enough, right? Like you don't need working with your lawyer to add to the stress of the process. So, I have a list. I think it's on my Instagram page, actually, at Michelle C. Thomas ESQ, on my bio, where you can download just some questions that you want to ask your lawyer when you're interviewing lawyers to try to find the right one for your case. You should understand the process when you leave that meeting. If you are still confused, that's probably not a good sign. You want to make sure that all your questions are answered at the end of the consultation so that you can make an informed decision.
Yeah, I love that. And I agree with you that it's one of the most important decisions that you'll make in this entire process of a divorce, which is why I wrote an entire chapter on it in my book, No One Dies from Divorce, because I absolutely agree with you that like when you find an attorney that's going to help you through one of the most hardest times of your life, you need somebody that you have that trust relationship with and that is going to have your back. I did want to ask you, Michelle, like, what's your thoughts on like the whole free consultation versus paid consultation?
Well, I think that it's up to the individual and it's up to the attorney. As in life, in a lot of instances, you get what you pay for. So, but that doesn't apply universally. But you do sometimes get what you pay for. And it depends on your market, right? So in a market like Washington, D.C., which is, it's an urban area, you're probably not going to find as many free consultation options as you may in perhaps a more rural area. Right. But, so I think it depends on the market. You have to know your area, your region. Again, ask around. Ask friends who have been through divorce or colleagues to find out whether they paid for consultations. But a lot of times, just like if you're going to a restaurant, if you pay higher prices, it's because you're expecting better quality of care and you're expecting better service. So those are things to consider.
And remember, in a consultation, if you feel like you're being sold, like they are selling themselves, that means they need your work. You never want an attorney that needs your work. You want an attorney that wants your work. And there's a very, very big difference, because if they need your work, they'll say and do anything to you for you to hire them and then for them to continue to be able to spend money, fighting for you. And a lot of times that might not be necessary. When they want your work, it's because they know that they can do good for you. They know that they can fight for you in the way that you need to be fought. And they know that they are hearing what you need. And then they're going to tailor their advocacy to make sure that that is covered. So I think that what you said, Michelle, is just absolutely spot on about you get what you pay for as well. And I say that a lot as well, because, you pay for my consultation. So you pay for an hour of my time, but I promise you, I'm not going to waste it, because it's going to, just like you said, I'm going to let you ask every single question you need. I'm going to explain the process. I'm going to explain the law, and you're going to walk away with answers to your questions, rather than feeling like, again, you were being sold. And that was never what I wanted in my intention of my consultations at my firm.
It's interesting, Jill. The other thing is people often value that which they have to pay for more so than the things that they get for free.
True.
So my understanding is that, a lot of times when people have free consultations, they may be demanding and have high expectations and not really value the time that it takes to represent you, the time that it takes to respond to your emails, talk on the phone, etc. So it's really an interesting dynamic in terms of whether you're going with a paid consultation or a free one. But it's costly, because a lot of times if you may start out with a free one, then you end up having to hire another lawyer to fix or undo sometimes what was initially done incorrectly.
Right. And it goes right into our next kind of thing that I want to talk about, which is like how to save money during a divorce, because you probably get this, is that I get all the time, you're too expensive. And, I am expensive. I get that. Like for Utah, for what I've built here. And if you want the expertise of Jill Coyle, I am on the higher end for divorce lawyers here in Utah. But I specifically know that my skill set is also rare, right? So I value myself at what I know I can give you. And anyway, so people complain a lot, like divorce attorneys are just really expensive. But my other thought is listen, you're going through one of the biggest things in your life that can affect your future, your family, and your finances. And if you get somebody that understands this and is able to protect you now, it could save you thousands and thousands of dollars down the road. So one of the questions I just wanted to talk a little bit about with you is like, okay, yes, we're expensive, we're worth it, I'll just say that. But how do you save, what are tips to save money during a divorce?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because the cost of the divorce comes up all the time. I mean, everybody knows for the most part, it's not cheap, right? There's that old adage, it's cheaper to keep her. It definitely, it can cost you. But you can do your part to try to conserve the cost. One of the ways is number one, being cooperative with your lawyer, meaning providing documentation on time that they ask you for, organizing your documentation that you're submitting to your attorney, because if you don't organize it and you essentially drop a box of whatever was in your nightstand on their desk and say, find it, and that, they're going to spend time having to organize it for you. And if your lawyer or law firm spends the time to organize it, guess what? You're going to pay for that. So be organized. If they have to follow up with you repeatedly for documents, that's going to add to your bill. So be timely, be on time, be organized, be cooperative, and also monitor the level of communication that you need, because clients can control in a lot of times whether they need frequent phone calls and contact or minimal. And that goes to, Jill, what we were talking about in the beginning is, you need to assess whether you really need to talk to your lawyer, or do you need to talk to a therapist or a friend or a pastor? So there's a difference. You may not always need to speak to your attorney, but if you do, it's going to cost you. The final tip that I would offer your listeners and viewers is the level of contentiousness. So if you are seeking revenge on your spouse and you're looking to stop at nothing in order to make their life miserable, that's also probably going to cost you, because the more contentious the case is, the more motions that are filed, the more court arguments and hearings there are, the more money you're going to have to pay your attorney. So trying to be reasonable, trying to talk through and think through what really matters, right? And the outcome, like, does it really matter? Or are you just being petty? Are you just trying to make your spouse's life miserable? So those are the things you need to think about as you're navigating the process, and some steps that you can do to take the matter into your own hands. You want to approach the process from an empowered place And that is knowing what you can do, what role you can play in keeping the cost down, controlling the volume and the climate of in the case, and ultimately conserving some money.
Right. And understanding like how your attorney bills. Like most attorneys bill minute for minute. However, they'll have a minimal amount of time. So for, they'll usually do a 0.1 or a 0.2 minimum, whatever that attorney decides. And so based off of that, for an email that took 3 minutes to respond to and read, they'll bill a 0.1, which is 6 minutes worth of time. And if it goes over that, they'll bill a 0.2. And so you have to understand that as well. So if you're that client that is sending multiple emails per day, it is going to add up on costs, because that attorney is going to be then in turn billing for the time for each email to make sure that they're responding to each. And it's just going to increase costs. However, if you were to say, I'm going to write my thoughts down in one email throughout the week, and I'm going to send that to my attorney on Friday morning so that they have all my thoughts and all my questions, that attorney then can spend a specific amount of time to respond to that, which is always going to save you time and money. So there's things that you have to recognize. Your attorney's time is billed. So the more time you spend needing to talk to your attorney for them to answer emails and stuff is going to be billed.
That's a really good point about being organized in your thoughts and in your communications with your lawyer. That helps a lot.
Yeah. And then again, this goes to our next thought that I wanted to talk to a little bit about, the necessity of having a support system. Because Michelle, it, like we get clients that just want to talk to us because they want to tell you the same emotional hang up that they're having this for the 5th time. And, you're sitting there listening to this phone call thinking, I have heard this same complaint or the same issue 5 times. You're like, why, and I've had to say the exact same answer every single time. And you finally recognize that these people just need to continually hear that they're heard, first of all, and that they're then somehow being supported. And so I am number one advocate of, hey, you need to find your support system to be able to utilize them in getting out your frustrations, so that you're not consistently going back to your attorney for that validation, which is just costing you money. So just in your opinion, Michelle, how important do you find that when you're doing your job, the best way to do that is when your client is being helped by whatever third party that they found?
Well, I encourage them to ensure that they have that third party, that support system. And we talked about this a little bit, but you should have a couple of friends. I always say a couple, because on the flip side, if you have too many people in your ear, so to speak, giving you their opinion, you then can lose sight of the goal. And your attorney, if you're working in partnership with your attorney, which is what it should be, a partnership, your attorney should have the goals in mind and the strategy laid out to help you best achieve your goals. When your friends come in and just try to fuel the fire, that sometimes can distract you from the goals and ultimately cause you to incur more money and raise the conflict in the case. So absolutely, you want to have just 1 or 2 people in your circle that you can confide in, but you don't want everybody, because that will confuse matters, confuse you during a very difficult time. It's often a good idea to have that emotional professional support in the form of whether it be therapy, counseling, pastoral counseling, something along those lines, but working with a trained professional, because divorce isn't easy. It's one of the most difficult aspects of life. And so there's no shame in getting some additional emotional support. It also helps you to think clearly. And when you're thinking more clear-minded, you can make better decisions, both about your children who may be affected. You can make better decisions about settlement proposals and settlement agreements. It can help you to be more reasonable when you're then discussing your options with your attorney. So there are so many reasons to have a support system. And I think you touched on this, Jill, about the stigma attached. There's a stigma attached to not just divorce, but sometimes also getting that professional help, that therapy or counseling. And it's such a necessary component. So if we can, at a minimum, sort of break that stigma and encourage people to get that additional support, they'll be better off for it, for sure.
I love that. One of the things, though, that I want to be clear is that one of the things I say about like the 10 biggest mistakes in divorce is getting advice from your friends and family, because I think I want to make clear we're talking about two separate things, right? Going to your friends and family and then hearing their situation and their story and then thinking that you're going to be able to get the same result is just setting you up for failure, because every family law case is different. The facts are always different. And even if you have very, very similar facts to, your friend, the outcome could be completely different for a myriad of reasons. I mean, it could be the judge just had a bad morning. And so I always tell people advice should never come from your friends and family. However, your emotional support should definitely be there. And that's why we say it's important to find your tribe, because they can help you vent and they can help you talk through some of these emotions and your anger and help you get to a place of maybe being able to voice it so that you can then move past it. But it's very different, to then be like, well, because I'm sure, Michelle, how many times do you get somebody come in your office and you're like, my friend was able to get this much in alimony, and so I expect that I'm going to get that much in alimony. And you're like, no, that's not how this works.
Yeah, I've definitely heard that before over the years, and people thinking that they should get a certain custody award or schedule, they should get a certain support award. And you're absolutely right that no two divorces are alike, and the circumstances affect the relief, the outcome significantly, as well as the lawyers who are involved and the reasonableness of the parties. There's so many reasons why every divorce is different. So do not rely on your friends' experiences to inform your own. That's what you have a lawyer for. And you should be partnering with your lawyer to work through your strategy for your case.
Right. I always say that the difference between my $5,000 divorces and my $100,000 divorces, it's not the facts of the case. It's literally opposing party and who they hire. And so that always is going to play into an effect of what's going to happen in your case. And so I absolutely agree with that. So Michelle, I just wanted to, have you talk a little bit about just parting thoughts for people going through a divorce.
Yeah, it's so important to be proactive about protecting your future, protecting your family, your children. And so the biggest thing you can do if you find yourself in a situation where separation and divorce seems imminent, is to meet with a competent divorce lawyer in your area as early as possible in the process. For me, I believe in positioning yourself. I believe that you need to get in position, work with an attorney, perhaps behind the scenes before you even make the move. The more prepared you are, the more empowered you are going into the process, generally the better outcome and results you will see. So be informed, be empowered, and don't feel guilty or embarrassed about anything going on. It's natural. It's a difficult part of life, but you can get through it. And ultimately, there is life after divorce. So I really want people to know that it doesn't have to just be the end, even though it's extremely difficult and extremely painful while you're in it. But the sun does come out after a while. So just, hang in there is what I would tell your audience.
I love that. And that's why, a lot of people, no one dies from divorce. And I get so many people that say, but I feel like I'm dying. And that's why I do what I do. This podcast is to lend hope and just be that cheerleader to let those people know that if you're feeling like that right now, I promise you it's a moment, and it's hard, and nobody is denying that. But I want to be that, that voice or that person to let you know that if all you can do right now is take small breaths, that's okay. And you're going to get through this, and you're going to become a stronger version of yourself that you didn't even know was possible. And that's what we're here for. Michelle's fighting the good fight out on the East Coast for people like you, to let you know that you have advocates, that there are people out there that, as divorce attorneys, there's those divorce attorneys that, they don't, they, there are those bad, I guess, divorce attorneys that just want money, but in the most part, we want to help people through these trying times. And just like we said at the beginning, me and Michelle, you kind of have to be a certain kind of person to help in a different way. And that's what we're doing. That's what we're doing here. And I just want to lend that, hope to you. No one dies from divorce. Divorce will not kill you. And if, you're sad and you're lonely right now, there are resources all over to help you through that and to let you know that you can come out of this on the other side. And just like Michelle said, the sun does come up. Michelle, I just think that this has just been so great to be able to talk to you. I want people to know how to find you, to find what you're doing and all the amazing things that you are right now. So please tell our listeners how to find you.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. You can find me online. I'm online at www.thomaslawdc.com. I'm on multiple social media platforms. You can find me on LinkedIn at Michelle C. Thomas. You can find me on Instagram at Michelle C. Thomas ESQ. And if you follow me on any of those platforms, you'll get inspirational content. You'll get informative content about divorce, family law, co-parenting, and you will also know where I'm going to be at next and what's coming up next, coaching programs and things of that nature. So, I certainly welcome the guests, and thank you so much. I really appreciate this conversation and you having it. This has been a great conversation, and I think that we have helped some people and will help some people through it. Yeah.
I love that you're doing a coaching now too, because you've been in the thick of it. Just, like we know exactly. And I love that you're lending to turn around, to have a different perspective, to help people through what they're going through. And I think that that's special because not a lot of people would do that. So Michelle, thanks for being on our show. And I wish you just all the best.
Thank you. Thank you. Likewise.
For the connection.
Thank you. Likewise. Bye-bye.
That's another episode of No One Dies from Divorce. Join us next week. Thank you for listening to this episode. If you enjoyed, please subscribe, follow, and share. I'd love to hear your questions and feedback. You can contact me at community@jillcoyle.com. See you next time. I am an attorney, but I am not your attorney. Any advice given on the podcast is general and shall not be construed as legal advice.